government is expecting more heads of state to confirm their attendance at the memorial service and funeral. And as we know, more than 50 heads of state have already arrived and confirmed that they are coming. There will, of course, be strict security. And to talk to us more about this now is Presidential Spokesperson Maharaj. Mac, thank you for joining us. We know quite a busy few days for you and, of course, very emotional as well.
Let me just clarify, I'm not here on the security arrangements.
Yes.
These are work for Minister Collins Jabane.
Yes.
Thank you.
So tell us, what has it been like for you personally the past few days?
It's been a very busy time, but we were all brought up in the struggle to focus on your job, whatever happens, and so I remain focused on my job, but very busy.
But very busy and very emotional for you as well.
Emotional, yes, but it is something that one has to put aside in discharging one's duties. I suppose after all this is over, that's when I'll have a time to reflect on even this experience of having to be the spokesman of President Zuma at this time.
It has been quite, I would say, a year for you, fielding calls from the media. In a way, is it respite for you now that you're not being troubled by the media as much as you have been over the past year?
I think this has been an opportunity for me to realize just how great a privilege my life has been. I've had the opportunity to spend time so closely with people like Mandela, Sisulu, in prison, out of prison, in the underground, and in the building of the new South Africa. It's an experience that very few people have a chance to go through. We were a small number of about 30 prisoners in the single cell section. So we shared all the hardships, we shared all the good times, and we learned how to turn all that into advantage. That's a great privilege to be able to learning at his footsteps and to say that, well, that's again something that will live on. But part of the struggle has been always that you are what you are because of the way you relate with your colleagues and the way you work together. So I think it's been wonderful. And to be still alive at this moment is a privilege.
On Thursday, when we sort of heard that there was a family gathering, there was a meeting, and then of course we had the official message just before midnight or around 11:30 from the president. The first time you heard, did you know in the days before that Madiba had not been responding and wasn't as well?
Now, the doctors gave a report on that day, and they indicated early evening that, look, there has been a marked deterioration. So one learnt all the time to expect anything, but it was the deterioration that made concern, and we were still asking the doctors, are we ready to say something? And before they came back to say we're ready, came the word that he's passed away.
And how did you feel at that moment?
A sense of saluting Madiba, a sense of saying to him that, Madiba, you have now ascended to the stars. Throughout your life, you led us through hard and difficult times and to democracy. Now you are up there amongst the stars, and you have become our lodestar that for all time, you will be there guiding us. And to say, you will live forever.
So like many people and many other political prisoners who'd been on Robben Island who have felt that it was time now for him to rest and time for him to go, was that a similar sentiment that you share, that he'd suffered long enough now?
I never took up the position that I would say that it is time for him to go. I took up the position and joked with him, in fact, in December when he recovered, to say, Madiba, you're enjoying life too much, you don't want to leave us. And we laughed about it. And I was convinced that he is a man of such determination, he has cultivated that when he's ready to go, he will go.
So take us back to the beginning, Mac, when you first met Mandela the man, and your friendship and your working relationship since then.
I really first got to know Madiba at a personal and face-to-face level in prison, 1965. And I think there are so many aspects of the man that come out. My first incident was, well, one of the enduring incidents was, I think the way he was such a wonderful listener and took interest in everybody. But behind it were great reason. He would always argue with you when he wanted you to do something from your premise. I had gone to prison absolutely livid about Afrikaans. I'd been questioned in Afrikaans in interrogation, and I had to learn how to handle what they were saying without betraying to them that I understand Afrikaans. And I said, never again. And he came to me and he said, Mac, let's study Afrikaans. I said, no. But he knew me, and he argued from a different perspective for days on end. And he said, Mac, are we in a protracted war? I said, yes. And he says, in that war, you will never lead the enemy forces into an ambush if you don't understand the opposite commander. And he said, you've got to learn the language. So we started studying Afrikaans. Then he says, no, you've got to understand their literature. You must read their poetry. And I had to do that. Because he had come to me from the angle, what touched me was that I wanted to be the best commander in the world to deal with the enemy.
So we've been hearing about Mandela, the man who was so great that he was so able to forgive the people, especially the people that punished him and put him into prison, and forgive his enemies, and he never really saw them as enemies. Was he like that from the beginning? Was he always a forgiving person, or did he learn that in his time in prison?
Madiba could be firm and to the point of ruthless. In 1953, he was president of the Transvaal ANC. And a small group, a faction within the ANC called themselves Bafa Bagia. Madiba, as president, expelled them one after the other out of the organization. But we all grow. But what I want to say, what is unfair about this portrayal is that from the beginning, the idea that black and white will have to live together was embedded in the policies of the ANC before he went to prison. And when we took to Mkhonto Wesizwe, the manifesto says, we're taking to sabotage as an effort to get you to come to the table. Let's talk. So that part of him was always there. But it grew, it deepened. And because it is in prison that we got to know the Afrikaner face to face. Through the warders, because they took away every warder that was black. So there was no other way. The only people we met were Afrikaners. And we learned to know them. And he made it a point to understand them.
And lots of questions around Madiba's role as Mkhonto Wesizwe commander. Lots of questions around that, and just people, I don't know if there's been a lot of criticism around it, or just how did he cope with the role, and how did the ANC see his role as the commander there?
Madiba was one of the proponents of it. But again, let's be fair. As far back as 1953, he had once been in public, spoke about the need to go to arms. And the National Executive censored him. In 1960, when the speech that is quoted, a chapter of the book is now closed. The National Executive called him and said, you have no authority to say that. And they censored him, and he accepted the censorship. But then within the organization, within the rules, he began to campaign for the Armstrong. So yes, people will make all sorts of observations, and they are entitled to that. But I think Madiba was a man of principle. He stuck to his guns, but he had a great sense of strategy, and he understood that tactics needed to be flexible.
Now, Mac, it's been a turbulent couple of months for government, and I don't want to go into all the incidents and just all the challenges that you faced and President Jacob Zuma has faced coming up to elections as well. And what would Nelson Mandela have thought of the ANC, and what would he have thought of the government if he was aware in the past few months of what was happening in the country?
I don't want to go on the ifs and buts. I can only go by what Madiba said right up the time when he was able to communicate.
Which was?
Which was that he's a member of the ANC, loyal to the ANC, but he said, I'm now retired, comrades, it's your job. And he would only talk to us when something of great crisis arose. And so, right up to his death, he was ANC.
Lots of critics have said that the ANC and lots of other political parties have forgotten the values that Madiba has stood for. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. Because people think that values and morals, organizations come to it ready-made. The ANC grew from its formation with the desire to stand up and fight for its rights, not with any sense of what are the moral values that encompass us. It learned the need for unity. It then learned about the tactics it should use, and it adapted them from time to time. And it learned through that if you are to succeed as a liberation movement, you have to be a servant of the people. And that meant that we can extrapolate a value, which was Madiba's value too, namely that you become a human being not when you just serve yourself. You become a human being when you make a difference to the lives of others.
No
You're
doubt.
a servant of the people.
No doubt the presidency, government, the ANC have all been reflecting over the past few days. What are you taking from Madiba's legacy? What are you taking forward from here if there were one thing that you had to pick?
The ANC will continue to thrive as long as it remains fixed on the path of being a servant of the people. And all of us, all political formations, will be part of the process if they all commit themselves to being servant of the people. And within that framework, the message is all South Africans unite. Do what you've been doing the last few days in the streets, in the townships, and in the suburbs. Hold hands, because against apartheid, we had to confront it and fight it. Now in a democracy, we must have our ideas contest each other, but within the framework that we are one people, one nation, and a winning nation.
Now, Mac, just to get onto a more personal level, have you been in contact with the family over the past few days?
No, I haven't even gone to the house to pay homage to the family. I've met the family members yesterday at the Bryanston Church, but in his own time and in a private space, I will be able to pay homage to them.
Now, Madiba himself envisioned an ANC branch in heaven. What do you think? Who do you think is going to be there?
Well,
what do you think it's going to look like? What are the colors?
I think that already he was met at the gates by Oliver Tambo. And Tambo and the previous presidents of the ANC and Walter Sisulu took him to a branch meeting and asked him to pay his subscription and become a member before they allowed him to speak. And they asked him to give a report.
And they have given him mealies for lunch. He loved mealies, is that what I understand? He loved his mealies.
And samp and beans.
And samp and beans.
Samp and beans, ngushu.
Is it? Well, he had good taste, very good taste. And just finally for us, Mac, are we ready for what's going to happen this week? Are we ready for tomorrow? Are we ready for Sunday? Is South Africa going to be able to cope with this?
This is the biggest funeral that has happened anywhere in the world. Be absolutely proud it's happening in South Africa. There will be enormous challenges. There have been. We will overcome them, and we must approach those challenges with the confidence that we will do it. And at the end of the day, with all the little things that go on, we will have an extreme moment where we can say, South Africa, you produced such a wonderful son, and South Africa, you gave him the best farewell.
Thank you very much, Mac Maharaj, presidential spokesperson, for that insight and, of course, recalling that history that you've had with Madiba.